Hello, this is update for January 16, 2024, day 692 of the war and of the date update. Also catch up for January 15 and 14. I'm going to start with general strategic updates as I always do, and then I'm going to switch to the situation on the front line. So first, general updates, and I'm going to start with Ukraine. So Ukrainian parliament killed this mobilization law. That was generally unpopular among the population, and so they obviously don't want to be blamed for it. So as I mentioned before, it's throwing the hand grenade between Ukrainian president, Ukrainian parliament, Ukrainian government, meaning prime minister, and then Ukrainian military. The legal responsibilities actually is on Ukrainian president and obviously Ukrainian parliament. And the Ukrainian president, for those who don't know, fully controls Ukrainian parliament. It's basically parliament is extension of Ukrainian president. So this is effectively the will of the Ukrainian president. This is a really strategic problem because obviously the purpose of that law was to tighten the screws, not actually create motivation for people to defend their country. And obviously for that reason it would not work, no matter what you do. And then the bigger problem is that Ukrainian president, Ukrainian parliament, obviously it's not independent. They don't have a vision. They don't have understanding how to change it to make people motivated. Or maybe they do, but they're not willing to do. And so this hand grenade will probably be thrown between all of these parties, and eventually it will explode because the situation will get worse as time passes by. As I mentioned before, the time is on the side of Russia. Russia is fully aware of that, and they don't even need to do any large offensive operations. If let's say I were in shoes of Russian side, all they need to do is continuing putting pressure, continuing inflicting casualties, and eventually Ukrainian military will be so hollowed out that it will sort of collapse on its own weight. So sort of similar what happened to Russian actual military when Ukrainian forces liberated part of the Kharkiv region and also the Kherson region on the western side of the Dnipro River. So that was exactly the same situation, and that's actually most efficient way to continue the work, given the actual state of affairs of Russian military, which, as I said before, is of the whole system is of extremely poor quality, and they often compare it to the to peasant army. It's not even Soviet army, put this way. It's even worse. Ukrainian military in basically more or less the same state. So the most efficient path forward for Russia is just to continue put pressure, and eventually they will this situation will tilt in their favor. So again, so going back to all of this, Ukraine is facing a really strategic problem where it really needs to change strategy, and then that will take care of the rest of the problems. And the problem is that Ukrainian political leadership is not capable of doing that. And military leadership is obviously they not independent. They serve political leadership, but to be fair, there's no call it fresh thinking there either. So it's the same sort of broken system as a whole, and in some ways this war is a moment where it's like a sink or swim moment for Ukraine. It's either it's going to change and change for the better, or it will cease to exist. There's no in some ways it's apparently a binary binary choice for Ukraine, 1 or 0. Now I'm going to switch a little bit to Russia. There is some indication that there is some pressure from the West that starts to work in terms of limiting Russian financial transactions. So there's information circling that Turkish banks stopped taking payments from Russia for the goods that Russian businesses are ordering from Turkey, and also Chinese banks started to scrutinize Russian counterparties more stringently. So again, I don't know if it's a new trend or there's increasing pressure, and let's say China is feeling, playing from the weaker hand where they need to bow to the pressure from the West. We'll see if that's sort of true or not. But there's these two events happening almost at the same time, and it seems looks like more like a trend rather than one-off situation. Also, there was a press conference of the Russian president. I think the most interesting takeaway is that effectively the Russian president issued indirect threat, or maybe direct, whatever you feel like, to Baltic states, and I mentioned before that they are going to be next on the list. The way he did it is essentially he said that I think Latvia was in this case, that Latvia is throwing out Russian people out of the country, and it poses national security threat to Russia. To be fair, it's just Latvia was just example, but the same is true for Estonia and Lithuania. Again, as I said, that's probably going to be what's going to be next on the list. Probably for that reason, Germany moved one of its brigades to Lithuania. Actually, Poland is asking Germany to bring its troops to Poland. In some ways, it's actually surprising because Poland spent a lot of effort and funds to rearm and to improve its army and actually make it one of the better armies in Europe. And German army is, I would say, in quite significant decline, in let's say very significant decline. So it's very questionable, sort of how much help Germany actually provide to Poland, even to itself. I don't even mention the polling that I mentioned before, where there's very little desire to defend their own countries among citizens of Germany and other countries in Europe. I think Poland actually stands out on the better end of it, but still pretty mediocre. Let's put it this way. Now I'm going to switch to walk through the front line. I'm going to do it in a clockwise fashion, as I always do, starting from very north. So the situation along the state border remains the same. No sort of concerning build-up of Russian troops or anything like that so far. Now let's move to the situation on the North Luhansk front line. Things here are somewhat changed. Russian command, for whatever reason, threw really forces to apparently eliminate this bridgehead on the eastern side of this. It's pretty much not even a river, stream. Not sure what's the sort of goal or purpose of that, because it doesn't. It's absolutely tactical goal. There is not much of a sort of doesn't open up much for Russian troops. Nevertheless, there is this change. We'll watch, see what's happening in the sort of coming days and weeks. At the same time, they completely removed pressure from Kupiansk, so which also indicates that they don't have much sort of free resources to put, let's say, pressure in two places at the same time on the same front line. But again, it's interesting sort of development. I'll continue providing updates on what's going on there. Now let's move to the North Donbass front line. Sort of northern sector is usually typically quiet. The southern sector, the Russian activity back in full force. The sort of holiday break is over, and Russian forces continuing their attacks. Again, it's just all primitive squeeze. There's nothing, nothing intelligent about it. Just pressure in the hope to slowly, capture Ukrainian territory. So far, there are no advances there, or at least nothing that's worth reporting, because if there's advance of 50 meters or 100 meters, it's really not sort of not changing anything. Now let's move to the central Donbass front line. Here Russian pressure again in full force, very active, very aggressive. So one area where it's very clear Russian troops are trying to eliminate this Avdiivka salient, and then the other one they actually attempting now to develop their own, call it Marinka salient. So if you really think about this could be like let's say Russian troops will capture, squeeze Ukrainian troops out of Avdiivka, then they can kind of create opportunity for the next move, which would be like, two pincers attacking from this, call it Avdiivka salient and then Marinka salient. Probably, with the end goal, this town Selidova here. Again, it's still pretty limited sort of sinking operation, but that's probably sort of next step, next goal for the Russian troops in terms of immediate goals. Now let's look at Zaporizhya front line. Things here are becoming quiet, and generally this has been fairly quiet front line since the end of Ukrainian so-called offensive. I still don't call it offensive really. Now let's look at the situation along the Dnipro River. Things here remain more or less the same. Ukrainian troops continue to hold bridgehead in Krinky. Russian troops attempting to destroy it, and they're not successful. At the same time, Ukrainian troops are not attempting to expand the bridgehead. So status quo remains, and so far it doesn't seem like there is any sort of change in either direction coming. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. Until next time. Bye-bye.